the game three between Denver Nuggets and Miami Heat in the NBA Finals. It was a great game, guys. It was a well fought game in the first half, with Heat just being 5 points down going into the first half, and then Nuggets coming back, and Nuggets showing the performance that was unprecedented. I mean, Nikola Jokic was crazy. Saw Jamal Murray being crazy. Amazing performance from Denver Nuggets. They look like the dominating team that we've been talking about, that they have been the whole season. They finally look like they were in form. And we also saw that Miami playing well, giving them a fight. What do you think about the game, guys?
I mean, it was a textbook Nugget performance, right? I mean, we talked about this last game too, that Jokic is coming out to perform every single night, whether it's against Miami, anyone. But you just need one more player with Jokic with Nuggets, and today it was Jamal Murray once again. I mean, first time ever two teammates of the same team, obviously of the same team, but two teammates getting triple doubles in an NBA Finals game ever. This was one of the it was a proper Nuggets performance, right? You had Jamal Murray, Jokic pick and rolls, Jokic just hitting every shot in that mid range, taking crazy post hooks, taking crazy fadeaways. Murray had that crazy off the glass layup. And when that layup hit, I was like, yeah, there's no way Heat are coming back. When Jamal Murray is scoring some crazy shots, no one can defend you. We saw it with the Lakers. We saw it in the bubble. When Jamal Murray is on it, and when I don't know when the hooping gods are with him, there's no stopping to this Nuggets team.
Yeah, I think I saw something very similar, but just to add to that point, I feel like Jamal Murray got hot just because of the first quarter that he had, and he had early points, which I think Miami was just giving him that drive, or that two-man game is obviously very effective, but um, I think they gave up too many easy buckets to Jamal in the first and the second, and that's what ignited him, and that's what you really don't want. Like we discussed in the previous video, that you can't really do anything about Jokic, right? You can put your best man on him. The form that he is in, you really can't stop him. But if you can stop Jamal, you can win that game, right? Like Miami did. And I think that's what they did wrong in this one. They allowed Jamal easy buckets, and like they focused more on Jokic this game, and which hurt them. Once he gets going, like we've discussed like multiple times, he's a rhythm player, and there was just no looking back. And another point I would like to point out, like we really have been touting about the Nuggets and their depth, right? But through these three games, they've looked very top heavy. Game one, both of them show up, they win massively. Game two, Jamal Murray doesn't show up, Jokic is Jokic, but they lose. Game three, once again, both of them show up. Not really a lot of production from the rest of the team. Yes, a lot of them had good games. Like Christian Braun had a really good game. But other than that, I mean, it was still a very top heavy performance, which is sort of a misnomer.
I mean, that's something that happens in the NBA Finals. I mean, you need to see that although they have a good team, although they have the depth in their team, although they have good players, but these players lack experience. And in the end, the team eventually falls back on the best two players that it has, which is Nikola Jokic and Murray in this particular team. And they are taking, I think so, I believe that they are taking the responsibility beautifully. And that is how they're carrying the bag. Again, like I told you, I think so. The last game was a fluke from Miami. It is not happening again unless Jimmy Butler goes all out, which he tried to, which he had a decent game this particular game, scoring 28 points, I guess, which was a good performance if we see, but that's not what we expect from Jimmy Butler. And I'm telling you that it would need a special Jimmy Butler to take this game away. We saw, like in the last game, we saw Miami fighting back, and we saw that Miami could have probably taken the game forward. But we also saw that Denver Nuggets were better in the defense in the second half. We saw that, and like I told you, I don't think so. Joker and his troops would be giving away another game because they were so good defensively. They threw away the last game. They are a good team. They didn't throw even a single game against the Lakers. They threw away last game. I don't think so. They're throwing up another game. We also have been talking about the home court advantage that the Denver Nuggets have with the altitude and the oxygen mask that has been famous, and we've been talking about in our shots as well. The thing is that the next game is in Denver. I think so. Denver will protect its fortress to its might, and this was the only
Miami still
game
has
we
one
saw.
more home game,
Yeah,
but
but again, like I told you, then it would be 3-1, and that is when probably Jimmy Butler will show up at his home with
Oh,
him
all
down,
right.
no,
and
like no, that's what I mean. Like Miami still has a home game. Like right now, Game 4 will be in Miami, and then we head
oh,
back to
game
Denver
4 will
in
be in
Game
Miami.
5. Right.
I I,
Oh,
I think Sridhar rather insinuated that Miami is losing the next game anyway, and they're going to Nuggets for a game 5. I
Yeah,
mean,
because he's a Celtic fan, but
it's
that's
not about
besides
being
the
a
point.
Celtics fan. I'm just analyzing the game, this series,
yeah,
and we know that
this is
Nuggets is a
this
better
I
is
team
like
mean,
than
Skip.
Miami.
This is the Skip
obviously,
Bayless analysis of the game, right? I mean, I agree to both of your points, right? Because we saw in the Lakers series, right, for the last two rounds, the first and second round, Lakers had people stepping up, and they got them games, and that's how they won the series. But against Nuggets, none of their role players ever stepped up, and I think that was the Lakers' point, right? In game 4, they had LeBron, AD play like 47, 48 minutes because they did not have the third person to rely on, and they still lost. So I think what happened in game 1 too, Aaron Gordon was given enough time, and we were talking about this in the
hmm,
podcast too, right? That Aaron Gordon looked like Shaquille O'Neal. He ended with 16 points. It did not feel like 16 points. It felt a lot more, and that's what happened with
because he was
Miami.
so like aggressive in the first
Exactly.
half, and
And
like
right
he
to your
didn't
point,
to attack in the second half. So he had already shifted the momentum of the game at that point.
right, and right to your point, right? Even today in this game, right? Whenever Jokic comes in and he has the
Right.
intensity, he has that aggressiveness to start from the tip off, right? You're going for his own bucket. He's not trying to side up his teammate, but he's going for his own. That's when he's the most scary, right? That's when this is a 30 point, at least 30-point game, unless he shoots abysmally from the field, which I haven't seen him shoot that way in a long time. I mean, this guy
Which
had the
is
best true shooting percentage in the season for the season. He shot like 70% true shooting in the regular season, which is crazy.
which is strikingly similar to what Jimmy Butler is as a player as well, right? I mean, it's crazy how both those superstars are super unselfish and always want to set up their teammates, but they're at their best when they're aggressive for their own offense. And it's just beautiful to see when they are. And Jimmy tried that today, but it just wasn't his night, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't have a particularly bad night shooting or anything, but he just wasn't converting a lot of those. Um,
I think the biggest problem is that when you go down in the fourth quarter, especially when the Heat have like plus 90, right, in all fourth quarters in the playoff series, in playoff games, which is absolutely crazy. But when you go in that when you're like 10 points, 15 points down in the fourth quarter, which they were in game 2, right, they were down 10 points, and Bam is your highest scorer in the fourth quarter with like 6 points. Duncan Robinson had 6 points, and Jamal Murray had like 13 points in the fourth quarter itself. I think that's when the Heat is stabbing itself in the leg the most, and that's the problem, right? I
mm,
think I think Heat, like obviously they don't have the talent, and they rely a lot on their shooters. And again, not a hot shooting night. You usually have role players play better on home, but they did not have the best shooting night tonight, and that's where they suffered. But I wanted to talk about another narrative. What happened with Nuggets, where Michael Porter Jr. once again had a terrible game. We talked about this last part too, and like we were talking about how it could turn out into one of the worst contracts after Ben Simmons, and he played 21 minutes tonight. He was 1 for 7. He had 2 points. On the contrary, Christian Braun did not play in Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals, deciding game. Went on to play 19 minutes, 7 for 8, 15 points, and was absolutely great on defense against Jimmy Butler at the same point of time. And
mm.
we had Michael Malone, not Mike Malone, Michael Malone throw a lot of shade towards Michael Porter Jr. last game and this game. So, what are your thoughts on that? What's going to be the third star Nugget syndrome?
I've always been doubting about Christian Braun. I've always been picking him for that surprise player because I love his defense and like his defensive capabilities just as is. He doesn't need to provide offense for that team, honestly, and he can do enough on defense which converts into that offense, that fast break points, which can just shift the momentum. And he had so many of those plays today, and it showed for sure. But like like you said, I think uh Denver's role players were better this game and Miami's weren't, and it kind of showed, even though it was a very top heavy performance like we discussed. I feel like through the three games, whenever the role players of either team has showed up, that team has won. Like even like you mentioned in that game, it was Duncan Robinson's quick 6 points in like 2 minutes or so that shifted the game towards Miami enough so that they could capture that game, right?
Yeah, I think Christian Braun and Nikola Jovic, not Jokic, Jovic from Miami are the only rookies right now from
If
this
only
rookie
they had a
class.
Jokic.
Yeah, if only they had a Jokic. But he's the only rookie right now, and he's not playing as a rookie at all, right? I mean, he's playing like a vet right now. He's defending properly, he's getting buckets, he's running fast breaks. I mean, that's all you want from any player, let alone a
Mm,
rookie, understanding that early on in his NBA journey. I mean, I mean, this is very off topic, but I remember a G League quote from I don't know which player. I think it was Patrick Beverly back when he was playing in the G League, and he said that these players do not understand their roles, right? You're not gonna score 40 points in an NBA game. What you're gonna do is you're gonna shoot threes and you're gonna defend.
agree.
And that's what's important. And especially for an undrafted or a second round pick, I think that's very important that you understand your role. You don't go as a superstar. You're probably not gonna be a superstar if you're after the lottery. There are cases, but you're probably not. But if you play your role, I mean, you definitely gonna get your bag and you're definitely gonna get some playing time.
That's an excellent point. I feel like all championship teams must have that, wherein every player knows their role and they buy into that role. Like we can go back as many teams as we want. You'll always see that. Like the Warriors had role players in Juan Descon Anderson and like Damian Lee, guys
Gary
like that,
Payton the
right?
second,
Gary Payton the second, and then even in the Bucks, in the 2020 Lakers, for sure, they had so many players who were just
for
doing
sure.
different roles.
I remember
And like
Marquise
you said,
Morris
3
made
and
like
D.
six from three one game, and I was like, whoa.
Exactly. So any good championship team has those guys, and Denver Nuggets definitely have that in their DNA. But coming back to the game today, I feel like Miami just wasn't in it down the stretch. Like I felt in the other two games, I didn't feel the same way about this game. And I feel like the difference was that Miami just Denver just figured out their defense, and they were just dominant in that third and that fourth. They just never took their foot off the gas pedal, and I think a lot of it was contributed by the early defense, wherein they let key guys get going, and I think after a point it was just they were just unstoppable. And on the other hand, Denver was slow to start, but once they caught on, they just never let easy baskets go through. And I think another thing that's hampering Miami is that Denver is very fast. They're pushing the ball, they're pushing the pace all the time, and they're getting easier buckets. And like I always say, easier buckets will always translate to wins for me. And I think that's what I'm seeing through this game. Uh, yeah.
I mean, it was a very oblong stat that we saw that it was 15 versus 8 in fast break points, if I'm not wrong, in the last game. This game was much competitive in both the teams, both teams having 11 fast break points. But what I think so, what is happening and what is working well for Denver at the moment is their defense. I think so. They have been brilliant in stopping Jimmy Butler, where we haven't seen again. I haven't seen a single game where Jimmy Butler has been given the space or which he has been left alone, or he's been given the open place to probably go shoot it. And I think so that is the only thing that is making the difference.
Um, I think the teams are eerily similar to me when I watch these games. I feel like both the teams exploit the same thing. When I see the two-man game of Bam and Jimmy, it's the same thing. They're exploiting that drop from Jokic, and that's how they usually get that. And if Jokic shows really high, Bam just slips the screen and just runs the plays from there. Similarly, very similarly, Denver runs that two-man game with Murray and Jokic, and Murray is getting just clean shots just because Bam is dropping because he doesn't want to leave Jokic alone. So I see very similar offenses and like very similar defense, even like both the big men just dropping so they don't give like easy rim runs and stuff. But
But you know what's
I don't
funny
know.
actually? You know what's funny actually? Nuggets have really shot badly throughout these three games from three. And then whenever they have played, I mean, when both games that they won over 11 points, right? Last game was 11. What was today? Like 13 points. And that's the thing, right? And Miami shot brilliantly. Like, there was no point
Mm,
even seeing it. They were like 50% from three in game two. And they were one shot away. Granted, it wasn't the best shot that Jamal Murray took, but they were still 3 points away from a tied game going into a timeout at Denver. So I mean that's the problem, right? Either Miami makes a lot of threes and they are competitive, or they don't make threes and they're not competitive at all. And
right.
even today, right? I think Duncan Robinson has been a brilliant player for them. He's been a perfect spark plug. He's playing like 15 odd minutes and he's giving them 10 points every game. Backdoor
Yeah,
cuts,
he had like 12
pointers.
points in 9 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, he had
So he's
13
doing
points.
his job more than
And
enough.
he was like 3 for 4 and he took those crazy shots in the last 2 minutes and his field goal percentage obviously dropped. But I mean, he was 3 for 4 effectively in like non-garbage minutes time, and that's what actually makes sense, right? When your role players like those Duncan Robinsons who's getting 13 minutes of playing like that, but match two is 1 for 6 and Gabe Vincent is 1 for 7. Caleb Martin still had a better game, but not really on that level as he was against the Celtics. And the other thing that I think really hampered Miami was that, man, oh man, they cannot win the non-Jokic minutes. And if you're not winning the non-Jokic minutes, I think you're not winning
Winning the
against the
game.
Nuggets.
Mm.
Exactly, because Jamaica having, obviously Bam needs to be every minute where Jokic is. Bam was a -20, it did not matter, but Bam needs to be there every minute when Jokic is on the floor. But even when he's not on the floor, I think they need Jimmy Butler and Bam to actually give them an advantage in those minutes, because even if they're a +2 with Jokic off the bench or even a -2, I think Jokic coming back is definitely sparking them on a 11. Every time I see Jokic come back into the game, check back into the game,
Mm.
it's like a 7-0, 8-0 run every time. Couple of
Yeah.
outlet passes, one crazy hook shot or a
Mm.
midi. And that's all that it takes to destroy any kind of momentum that the Heat have. And I think that's majorly what has killed the Heat overall in the last three games.